James Harrison thought he had just one daughter, until one afternoon he spotted her identical face beaming at him from across a bustling playground, appending everything he believed about his history. James Harrison sat quietly on the wooden park bench, relishing the gentle warmth of the early spring sun on his face, taking in the joyful sounds of children laughing and shouting as they played nearby. It was one of those rare Sunday afternoons when he permitted himself to take a break, to momentarily push aside the relentless flow of duties and appointments that occupied his life as the head of a tech empire. His focus, however, was solely on his 6-year-old daughter, Emma. As she sprinted, her long dark hair danced in the wind, and her vibrant blue eyes shone with happiness, making her undeniably the focal point of his universe. James smiled gently as he observed her tackle the monkey bars with resolve, once more captivated by how seamlessly Emma reflected his own traits. She was his miniature replica, and all who were acquainted with them noted the striking similarity in their appearances. Just as he was about to beckon her for a snack, something in the throng of frolicking children drew his attention. He adjusted his posture, his eyes narrowing, his heart unexpectedly pounding in his chest with an unusual fervor. On the other side of the playground, a young girl was scaling a vibrant red slide. For a fleeting instant, James questioned his own perception, wondering if it was merely a play of sunlight or the typical disarray that ensues when a swarm of children dashes about in matching jackets and sneakers. As he rose gradually, it dawned on him that there was no error. The girl he beheld was nearly a perfect replica of his Emma. She possessed the same lush, dark hair cascading in soft waves beyond her shoulders, the same refined features, and when she turned, laughing at something her companion had uttered, he experienced a sudden jolt as if the ground had shifted beneath him. Her eyes, expansive and crystal clear, shone with a strikingly bright blue that reflected Emma's own perfectly. James experienced a wave of bewilderment and incredulity, his body propelling ahead even as his mind struggled to grasp the situation. He had to draw nearer, to observe her distinctly, to ascertain if this was just a chance encounter or something far deeper. He attempted to justify, to persuade himself that many children bore similarities, that it must simply be an odd coincidence. Yet the remarkable similarity resonated on a level that transcended the mundane. His footsteps hastened until he was merely a few feet away, overlooked by the children who were completely absorbed in their play. James observed the enigmatic girl's actions, noting the angle of her head as she spoke, the whimsical manner in which she swept her hair aside, each movement strikingly reminiscent. Then suddenly, from the corner of his eye, James noticed a woman coming towards the girl, her arms reaching out with warmth and care. He stood still, the realization striking him with the force of a punch. His breath snagged painfully in his throat. Alice was the one. Alice, the woman he had adored with fervor, who had abruptly and mysteriously disappeared from his existence right after the arrival of their twin daughters. Alice had departed without a word, taking one daughter with her and leaving Emma in his custody. In those early months, James searched for her with a fervor that consumed him, leaving no stone unturned. He pored over every resource, enlisted the help of investigators. Yet despite his relentless efforts, he found nothing. She had disappeared completely, leaving nothing but a void and lingering mysteries in her wake. There she was, standing directly before him, holding this child who unmistakably resembled Emma's twin sister. He gazed, frozen in place, breath caught in his throat. For years, he had envisioned this moment, fantasizing about reuniting with Alice, about reclaiming the daughter he had lost without ever truly knowing her. Yet witnessing them in person now felt like a dream. He observed the tender smile on Alice's face as she spoke softly to her daughter, lovingly smoothing back her hair. He observed with clarity the passage of time etched upon her features, still captivating, yet now adorned with delicate lines framing her eyes, her shoulders bearing a serene, tired elegance. James's heart raced with a painful urgency, caught in a struggle between the urge to charge ahead and seek answers, and the dread that such an action might send Alice retreating once more, disappearing into the very shadows that had concealed her so completely before. Amidst the tumult of swirling feelings, James remained oblivious to Emma's gentle approach, her fingers softly pulling at his sleeve, intrigued by his stillness. "Father?" she inquired softly, her gaze filled with curiosity, drawing him out of his dazed contemplation. He gazed at his daughter's pure, trusting expression and attempted to compose himself. Kneeling softly to catch her eye, he offered a tentative smile, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "It's all right, darling," he murmured, yet within, everything felt far from all right. He cast a quick look over his shoulder at Alice and the girl, his heart pounding fiercely in his chest. Alice's gaze abruptly rose, locking onto his from across the bustling playground. Her expression transformed from serene tranquility to a sudden, startled awareness in the blink of an eye. Their eyes met, burdened by a collective past rich with affection, sorrow, and lingering questions. Alice, without uttering a single word, swiftly turned away, clutching her daughter's hand as they hurried toward the park exit. Meanwhile, James stood in stunned silence, holding Emma close, acutely aware that his life had just undergone another profound transformation. James wandered through his spacious, contemporary home that evening, deep in contemplation, while Emma rested soundly upstairs, oblivious to the monumental change that had just unfolded in their lives. His thoughts surged, revisiting the fleeting, charged instant in the park when his gaze had locked with Alice's once more after 6 long years. The girl next to her was strikingly similar to Emma. James grappled with the fragments of the situation, perplexed by how Alice had managed to disappear entirely, leaving behind no evidence, only to emerge unexpectedly like this. He experienced a profound mix of anger and sadness that clashed intensely within him. The betrayal he had experienced years prior, which he believed was hidden beneath the routine of everyday existence, rose anew, vivid and unrefined, to the forefront of his mind. Rest eluded him as he delved into the depths of the internet, resolute in his quest to uncover every detail about Alice's whereabouts and her past actions. After several challenging hours, his perseverance finally bore fruit. Alice had truly transformed her identity and crafted a serene existence for herself and their other daughter in a neighboring town, just shy of 20 miles from him all along. The irony seemed almost merciless. All those years of pondering and yearning, and she had been so close all along. He gazed at the screen, taking in the recent images of Alice, her gentle smile directed at their other daughter, Chloe, who beamed back, blissfully unaware of her father's presence or the twin sister, who was so near yet completely unknown to her. James was overwhelmed by a heavy burden of duty and doubt. Should he face Alice head-on, insisting on the truth, or take a more cautious route, wary of driving her further away? He reclined in his chair, his fingertips resting on his temples, lost in profound thought. He understood that his anger was justified, that he was entitled to seek answers for Alice's actions. Yet something held him back from seizing the phone in anger. Chloe's face radiated innocence, her eyes sparkling with joy as she gazed up at her mother. James understood with a sharp awareness that his upcoming actions had to be cautious and intentional, not only for his own sake but also for the well-being of his 2 daughters. Following a night filled with unease, James ultimately resolved to reach out to Alice with care, sending a subtle message to arrange a private meeting for a conversation. He maintained a calm demeanor, revealing no trace of frustration or bitterness, merely requesting that she allow him the opportunity to comprehend. After what felt like an eternity, her cautious response arrived, confirming their rendezvous at a quaint, serene cafe on the town's edge the next evening. He spent the following day on edge, grappling with anxiety as he tried to keep his cool during meetings and calls, unable to dispel the looming thoughts of the upcoming conversation. As dusk settled in, James made his way to the cafe, his anxiety palpable. He discovered Alice already present, seated silently at a corner table, her fingers anxiously drumming against her coffee cup. As he drew near, she glanced up, her gaze locking onto his with a hesitant, guarded look. Neither spoke right away. Instead, they observed one another intently, taking in the transformations that time had wrought. Alice maintained her quiet dignity, a quality that had always captivated him. Yet now there lingered a concealed sorrow in her eyes that he had never noticed before. What is the reason? He finally inquired, his tone soft yet resolute. What prompted you to take Clody and disappear without a trace, leaving Emma in the lurch? Alice took a deep breath, clearly unsettled by his straightforwardness. I had no choice, James, she said softly, her voice quivering just a bit. Fear gripped me. When the girls came into the world, I noticed your desire to oversee every aspect, our home, our future, and even the way we nurtured our daughters. I feared you might take both of them away from me entirely. Faced with the possibility of losing it all, I found myself making a regrettable choice. I brought Clody along, believing I could shield at least one of my children from being entirely engulfed by your world. James absorbed her words in silence, the weight of them pressing down on his heart. His instinct was to object, to assert that he had never meant any harm, that his only desire had been to secure the best life for his family. Yet, beneath the surface, he acknowledged a reality in her apprehension. In those days, he was consumed by his aspirations, so intent on constructing a legacy that he failed to see what was slipping away from him in his personal life. Has Clody ever inquired about her father or about Emma? James inquired softly, struggling to maintain his composure. Alice nodded, her eyes brimming with tears that she swiftly blinked back. Indeed, she did so without fail. Yet I informed her that you had departed, beyond reach. I aimed to protect her from the pain of abandonment, from the belief that she fell short. I understand that it was a mistake. However, once I began that deception, I found myself unable to halt its progression. James let out a deep sigh, grasping the intensity of her suffering, even if he couldn't rationalize her choices. He extended his hand gently across the table, stopping just short of her own. His palm turned upward as a gesture of tranquility. Alice, I would like Clody and Emma to become acquainted. They are meant to be together. Kindly do not evade this once more. Together we can mend the harm. Alice gazed at his outstretched palm, the atmosphere heavy with unvoiced anxieties and delicate aspirations. Following a prolonged silence, she eventually nodded, tears silently streaming down her face. I desire that as well, she murmured. They departed the cafe that evening devoid of embraces or grins, each burdened with doubt yet also fueled by a fresh resolve. Neither had a clear vision of what lay ahead, yet for the first time in years, they found themselves moving forward side by side. In the days that followed their tense yet revealing conversation, James and Alice carefully embarked on the intricate journey of reuniting their distinct lives. Neither was entirely ready for the depth of emotion that would infuse their interactions, with each phone call or fleeting text laden with unresolved history and delicately concealed vulnerabilities. James grappled with an ongoing struggle, torn between the wish to restore trust and a persistent bitterness regarding Alice's decisions. Meanwhile, Alice wrestled with a heavy sense of guilt, perpetually anxious that bringing James back into Chloe's life might only result in heartbreak for both of them. Yet, in spite of their apprehensions, both understood it was crucial for Emma and Chloe to finally come together, to have the opportunity to grow up aware of each other's presence. James organized the initial family gathering at a neutral location, a calm and welcoming diner situated midway between their two residences. That morning, as James tenderly brushed Emma's long dark hair, smoothing the strands with care, he felt a slight tremor in his hands. Emma observed him intently in the reflection, picking up on his unease yet unable to grasp the reason behind it. James offered a warm smile, striving to mask the flutter of anxiety within him. Today, Em, you're going to meet someone truly special, he said gently, his voice steady and soothing. Emma turned to him, her eyes wide with innocent curiosity, and nodded, placing her complete trust in him. As James and Emma stepped into the diner, they spotted Alice and Chloe already nestled in a cozy booth. Chloe was fiddling with a napkin, while Alice gazed out the window, seemingly absorbed in her own world. When Chloe finally looked up, her eyes grew wide with surprise and amazement, her mouth agape. Emma halted next to James, mirroring her astonishment. The two girls gazed at one another from opposite ends of the small space, their matching features reflecting a blend of confusion, curiosity, and an unspoken familiarity. Silence enveloped them, as if the very atmosphere was pausing in anticipation. Gradually, with a sense of caution, they moved closer, their eyes entwined in a shared intrigue. James and Alice observed in quiet wonder, their own anxieties momentarily set aside. Chloe extended a delicate hand and brushed Emma's cheek lightly, as if verifying her existence. Emma chuckled softly at the contact, and in an instant, both girls beamed simultaneously, their expressions illuminating in flawless harmony. They remained silent, simply standing there, enveloped in each other's presence, instinctively aware of their profound connection. As they witnessed their daughters together for the first time, James and Alice exchanged a glance brimming with both joy and sorrow. Joy for the instant bond forming between the girls, sorrow for the years that had slipped away. James subtly gestured for Alice to join him at the table, and as they settled in, both found a peculiar comfort in observing the twins interact so naturally and effortlessly, despite their lives having been lived apart. "I never imagined it would feel like this," Alice admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "They act like they've always known each other." James nodded, unable to tear his eyes away from the two girls who were now laughing quietly, exchanging small secrets as though they'd never been apart. "It seems they sense something profound beyond mere recollections," he reflected with a hint of contemplation. "They inherently understand their bond as sisters." During lunch, the dialogue flowed with a delicate yet tender quality. Alice recounted delightful anecdotes from Chloe's life, touching on her interests and school experiences, while James expressed his affection for Emma, detailing her cherished pastimes and unique traits. Slowly, the strain between James and Alice eased, giving way to a budding sense of tentative optimism. They started to look past their own grievances and missteps, directing their attention to the joy unfolding in front of them. As their meal came to a close, Emma and Chloe transitioned from a state of quiet curiosity to lively chatter, their laughter ringing out as they shared their favorite cartoons, snacks, and colors. Standing outside the diner, ready to part ways, Emma unexpectedly pulled Chloe into a tight embrace. Initially taken aback, Chloe swiftly reciprocated, enveloping her sister in a fierce hug that brought tears to Alice's eyes. James swallowed the lump in his throat, profoundly touched by the pure innocence and instinctive love radiating from his daughters. That evening, after tucking Emma in, he found himself alone in the stillness of the living room, lost in thought about the significant changes on the horizon. He understood that the journey would be challenging. There was much healing to be done between him and Alice, and the girls would surely have countless questions in the days to come. But tonight, for the first time in 6 years, James felt a genuine sense of optimism. He understood now that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting past mistakes. It was about choosing to move forward despite them. As he sat there quietly, James made a promise to himself to do everything possible to provide Emma and Chloe with the family they had always deserved. In the weeks that followed that poignant first meeting, James and Alice slowly began to weave their lives together once more, treading lightly around the fragile boundaries that still existed. Their visits grew more frequent, shifting from neutral locations to the comfort of their homes, with each meeting strengthening the connection between Emma and Chloe. The two girls swiftly became inseparable, flourishing together as if reclaiming all the time they had missed. James found himself captivated by the effortless bond that seemed to flourish between them, often observing with a sense of quiet awe at the enduring connection that remained untouched by distance or time. While their daughters grew closer, James and Alice kept a careful distance, their exchanges tinged with caution. Neither was willing to confront the unresolved emotions or the intricate history that lingered just beneath the surface of their polite dialogue. Both instinctively dreaded jeopardizing the delicate trust they had established by revisiting old scars. However, as days morphed into weeks, it became evident that evading their history would not be viable. Each time their gazes crossed in a room, there was an unspoken recognition of unresolved matters, a profound hurt that lingered just beneath their composed facades. On a rainy afternoon, after James had dropped Chloe off at Alice's house, he hesitated longer than usual, standing uncertainly in her entryway. Alice observed him, immediately sensing that something was troubling him. After a prolonged silence, she softly beckoned him inside. They found themselves in her cozy, softly illuminated kitchen, the gentle rain creating a rhythmic melody against the windows. An unspoken tension lingered in the air as they both sought the right words, conscious of the significance of the moment, yet unsure of how to begin. At last, James ventured to speak, his voice low and measured. "Alice, we must confront the past. The girls are flourishing together now, yet we remain caught in the limbo between our former selves and our present identities." Alice's gaze locked onto his, her uncertainty evident in her expression. She nodded slowly, recognizing the weight of his words. "You're right, but I'm filled with fear, James. I worry that revisiting those moments might unravel everything we've created for the girls." James shook his head softly. "Perhaps by facing it, we can truly begin to heal. Perhaps we can truly create something more resilient. For them and for ourselves." Alice paused, her fingers tightening around her mug as if it could provide solace. She breathed out gently, summoning her bravery. "When I departed, I felt confined," she confessed in a hushed tone. "I noticed your determination, your passion, and how swiftly our family was fading into the background of your professional pursuits. Fear gripped me, James. I worried you might take our daughters away if you thought I fell short." James remained silent, taking in the deep hurt woven into her words. It struck him profoundly, yet he also acknowledged the validity of her fears. "I was oblivious," he admitted quietly. "At that time, I was so engrossed in my ambitions that I overlooked the most crucial aspect of my life, you, our family. In the aftermath of your absence, I placed all the blame on you. However, with a clearer perspective now, I understand my part in pushing you away." Alice's gaze softened, the tension gradually dissipating from her features. "I was wrong too," she murmured. "Taking Chloe away, concealing the truth, it was a mistake. Back then, I believed it was the sole means to shield one daughter from your reality. Yet, thoughts of you and Emma lingered in my mind. The weight of guilt I bore never faded away." James extended his hand across the table, softly enveloping hers, a sign of reconciliation, solace, and cautious forgiveness. Alice remained still, welcoming the warmth of his touch as it gradually softened her defenses. They sat in silence, letting the shared moment of vulnerability settle in, mending something small yet significant between them. As the rain fell steadily outside, James and Alice took a tentative journey through their past, exploring both the joyful and the sorrowful moments. With every memory they exchanged, the weight that had lingered between them began to ease, slowly giving way to a burgeoning sense of empathy. They understood that the road ahead would be challenging, yet they found solace in the decision to navigate it side by side, rather than in solitude. As the moment arrived for James to depart, Alice accompanied him to the door in silence, an unspoken understanding hanging in the air. Just before he stepped outside, James hesitated, locking his gaze with hers, recognizing the woman he had once cherished so deeply, and maybe, just maybe, the woman he still held in his heart. "Thank you for letting me in," he murmured, the words carrying a weight that transcended the mere confines of her home. Alice smiled softly, her eyes reflecting a blend of caution and hope. "Thank you for coming back," she said quietly, fully grasping his meaning. As he drove home through the soothing rain that evening, James sensed a burden easing from his shoulders. After many years, he finally felt a sense of genuine hope, not only for his daughters but for himself as well. He recognized that true healing demanded both honesty and courage, and for the first time he was prepared to confront both. Following that rainy afternoon, a significant change occurred in the dynamic between James and Alice. The process was neither swift nor theatrical. Rather, it was a gentle and gradual emergence of trust, a careful reawakening of ease in one another's company. Their exchanges grew more fluid, their smiles radiated warmth, and their dialogues became increasingly open. They remained mindful not to hasten the pace or force any developments, yet slowly, they welcomed back small moments of closeness, sharing inside jokes or exchanging fleeting, lingering looks that conveyed deeper meanings than mere words could express. The girls observed the shift, feeling the fresh comfort that had settled between their parents, which only amplified their own joy. Emma and Chloe flourished as their family gradually, carefully mended itself. On a radiant, sunny afternoon, James extended an invitation to Alice and Chloe to accompany him and Emma to the lake house he maintained for occasional getaways. It was a serene location, enveloped by trees, with crystal-clear water mirroring the expansive, unclouded sky. Alice paused momentarily, vivid recollections of their previous family outings to this exact spot flooding her mind. However, upon witnessing the thrill glimmering in Chloe's eyes and Emma nearly bouncing with eagerness, she consented, understanding that it was the moment to create fresh memories that could mend the hurtful ones. At the lake house, the air was filled with the joyful sounds of children's laughter as the twins dashed barefoot along the lush shore, pursuing butterflies, their identical dark hair flowing behind them. James observed from the porch, a satisfied smile gracing his face, quietly astonished by the ease of it all. He turned his gaze to Alice, who stood close by, her arms casually crossed over her chest as she regarded their daughters with a heartwarming pride. For a long moment, he simply observed her, captivated once more by the quiet strength she'd always held. She sensed his gaze and turned to meet his eyes, offering a gentle, tentative smile in return. "I never thought we'd be here again," she confessed softly, her voice laced with quiet emotion. James nodded in understanding, moving closer until they stood side by side, their shoulders almost brushing, both gazing out over the shimmering water. "I used to imagine this so many times," James confessed softly, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Being together again, having our family complete. I never imagined this moment would arrive, yet here we stand." Alice breathed out softly, a blend of relief and awe in her sigh. "Perhaps we needed to journey apart to understand our true desires," she said, her tone tender and contemplative. That afternoon unfolded with hours of joy as they engaged with the girls, swimming, crafting sandcastles, and grilling dinner while the sun dipped low, casting a gentle glow of gold and pink. Emma and Chloe perched on the dock's edge, their feet playfully splashing in the water, sharing whispers and laughter. Behind them, James and Alice lingered, close enough to feel the warmth of each other yet content to savor the moment without reaching out. As the stars began to populate the evening sky, the twins fell asleep on the couch, cocooned in cozy blankets. James tenderly lifted each of them and carried them upstairs, ensuring they were snug in their beds. When he returned to the downstairs, he discovered Alice quietly organizing the kitchen, absorbed in her thoughts. James paused, observing her with a sense of warmth and familiarity enveloping the moment. "I've missed this," he said softly, taken aback by his own honesty. Alice halted her actions and turned to him, her eyes scanning his face with intent curiosity. "I have too," she confessed quietly, moving closer. "I fought so hard to persuade myself otherwise, but deep down I always recognized that was a falsehood." James bridged the gap between them with care, tentatively reaching out to tenderly caress her face, sweeping aside a loose strand of hair. His touch was gentle, cautious, imbued with a lifetime of yearning and remorse, and a flicker of hope for redemption. Alice leaned into his hand, her eyes fluttering shut for a moment, embracing the unspoken act of affection and healing. "I'm sorry for everything," James murmured, his voice thick with feeling. "For each error I committed, for every instance I prioritized ambition over our family." Alice opened her eyes, meeting his gaze with a calm sincerity. "And I regret running away," she responded softly, her voice firm yet fragile, "for tearing our family apart. I believed I was safeguarding us, yet all I accomplished was inflicting pain." Gradually, almost instinctively, their faces inched closer until their lips met in a gentle, sincere kiss, a careful yet profound affirmation of the love that endured despite the passage of time and the sorrow. They drew back just a bit, their foreheads touching softly, breathing in harmony as they allowed the stillness of the moment to envelop them. "Do you think we can truly begin anew?" Alice asked quietly, her voice tinged with both hope and a trace of apprehension. James tenderly raised her chin, ensuring their eyes locked, his voice steady and resolute. "I believe we already have." That night, with the lake outside murmuring softly beneath the starlit sky, James and Alice sat side by side, quietly envisioning their future. Not the flawless future they had once dreamed of, but something even richer, a genuine life forged from hard-earned lessons and sincere forgiveness. They grasped fully now that what had been shattered was not irretrievably lost, and as long as they chose one another, every step forward brought them closer to authentic happiness. In the weeks following their trip to the lake house, James and Alice gradually drew nearer, thoughtfully mending trust through subtle gestures and deep conversations. The change was not abrupt, nor did it wipe away all previous pains, but it was sincere, grounded in truth, openness, and a heartfelt wish to create something enduring. The girls thrived in this fresh sense of stability, their laughter echoing in both homes as they increasingly enjoyed each other's company. Sharing breakfasts, evenings, and weekend afternoons as a family became a routine for them. Over time, the once distinct lines between James and Alice's lives softened, giving way to a feeling of togetherness that had eluded them for years. One afternoon, while the girls played happily in the garden, James showed up unexpectedly at Alice's home, a small box in hand. Alice welcomed him at the door, her eyes sparkling with curiosity as she beckoned him in. James paused for a moment, his nerves evident, which Alice found oddly charming. They settled at the kitchen table, where sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a gentle glow that filled the room with a sense of warmth and ease. "I've been reflecting deeply lately," James began, his gaze earnest as it met hers. "About us, about Emma and Chloe, about all we've experienced together. The reality is, each day I share with you and the girls reveals just how hollow my life felt before you came into it." Alice listened intently, a soft flutter stirring in her chest. She held her silence, aware of the moment's significance, allowing him the room to collect his thoughts completely. He pressed on, his voice calm but firm. "I don't want us to linger in this uncertain space indefinitely. Once more, we have discovered one another, establishing a bond of trust. My desire is for us to truly become a family again, not solely for the sake of our daughters, but for ourselves as well." With care, he set the small box on the table, slowly opening it to unveil a delicate gold necklace. It was something Alice recognized, a gift he had bestowed upon her long ago, before their lives had come apart. Alice's breath hitched, memories flooding her mind as she delicately traced the pendant's smooth surface. "I kept it all these years," James murmured, observing her response intently. "I couldn't let it go." Each day, it brought back memories of what was lost and the hope of rediscovery. Alice locked eyes with him, her gaze shimmering with unspoken feelings, as a comforting warmth enveloped her heart. "James," she murmured softly, her tone laced with sincere affection, "are you certain about this? Are you certain we're prepared?" He extended his hand, softly grasping hers, his touch reassuring and firm. "I've never felt more convinced," he replied earnestly. "I understand that we've both transformed. We have evolved since the time we parted ways. I believe the individuals we are now merit another opportunity. We deserve the chance to finally make things right." Alice smiled gently, delicately lifting the necklace from the box and savoring its reassuring weight in her hand. She examined it with contemplation, then locked eyes with James once more, her expression firm. "I want that too," she confessed quietly, her voice steady and heartfelt. "I long for us to reunite as a family, not solely for our daughters, but because my love for you remains. I never truly let go." James breathed out gently, a blend of relief and joy swelling warmly in his heart. He rose slowly, moved closer, and gently clasped the necklace around Alice's neck, allowing his hands to rest lightly on her shoulders. She reached up, her fingers briefly brushing against his hand in a quiet moment of shared intimacy and silent promise. Just then, the girls burst into the kitchen, laughing, their cheeks flushed from playing outside. They halted at once, feeling the softness that enveloped the space. Chloe inclined her head a bit, her eyes filled with curiosity, while Emma approached with caution. "Are you guys okay?" Emma inquired, her gaze shifting carefully between her parents. James smiled warmly, stepping back to pull both girls close, gathering them gently into his embrace. Alice joined them, completing their little circle. "We're better than okay," James replied softly. "We have something significant to share with you." He took a moment to collect his thoughts, then spoke gently. "Your mom and I care for each other deeply, and we've made the decision to live together again, as a true family." The twins looked at each other in surprise before bursting into joyful laughter, wrapping their arms around their parents in unfiltered happiness. James and Alice exchanged warm, relieved smiles over their daughters' heads, both acutely aware of the distance they had traveled. That evening, as they gathered around the dinner table as a reunited family, laughter echoed in the small kitchen. James felt a profound gratitude for the challenging journey they had faced. It had tested their resilience, their hearts, and their love, but ultimately brought them back together, wiser and stronger than ever. They had not merely gone back to what once was. Rather, they had forged something fresh, more resilient and authentic than anything they had previously experienced. As James surveyed the table, a sense of tranquility enveloped him, realizing that at last, after enduring years of doubt and suffering, he was precisely where he was meant to be. In the months that followed their choice to come together as a family, James and Alice gradually reconstructed not just their home but their entire existence around one another and their daughters. With each passing day, nuances emerged, slowly shifting doubt into a warm embrace of belonging. The comforting cadence of everyday life evolved into cherished rituals, mornings filled with laughter over shared breakfasts, cozy movie nights on weekends, and the enchanting exchange of bedtime stories between James and Alice. They tenderly reignited their love, fostering trust through gentle gestures, meaningful dialogues, and an unwavering dedication to honesty. James realized that their reunion wasn't about reliving old memories, but rather about the daily commitment to one another, embracing their flaws while resolutely stepping forward together. On a brisk autumn afternoon, James softly walked into their warm family room and spotted Alice on the couch, lost in thought as she watched the orange leaves dance outside the window. He could tell right away that she was contemplating something significant. As he approached with a measured pace, he settled beside her, gently covering her hand with his. Alice shifted her gaze toward him, her eyes filled with contemplation, revealing the profound feelings she had been grappling with. "I've been reflecting," she started softly, her tone both cautious and unwavering, "on how much has transformed between us. It's astonishing how much resilience we've developed. Yet, there are moments when fear creeps in, James, a fear that this joy might vanish once more." James sensed a deep understanding in her voice, fully grasping her sentiment. He nodded softly, holding her hand with a comforting grip. "I truly grasp that fear. I've experienced it myself. Now, we stand before each other without barriers. We confront challenges side by side, with transparency. We refuse to allow miscommunications or silence to drive us apart once more." Alice met his gaze with warmth, finding solace in his calm assurance. "I believe you," she said gently, allowing herself to lean a bit closer to him. "But I think there's still something we need to address, something to genuinely assist us in progressing together." James paused, feeling the weight of her words, giving her the opportunity to articulate her thoughts completely. After a moment of silence, Alice softly resumed. "I believe it's time to share the truth with the girls about everything, about the reasons for our separation, about my decision to take Chloe away, and the years we spent apart. They've reached an age where understanding is within their grasp, and it's only fair that we share the truth with them directly, rather than letting them discover it through others or pose questions we might struggle to address." James experienced a fleeting tightness in his chest, acutely aware of the emotional burden that Alice's suggestion carried. The idea of revealing their troubled history so candidly was indeed intimidating. He understood the significance of being open. The girls were entitled to the truth, no matter how challenging it might be. Taking a measured breath, he nodded with determination. "You're right," he replied softly, his tone steady despite the gravity of the choice ahead. "They have a right to the truth, and it is our responsibility to be entirely forthright with them. Later that evening, once dinner and homework were finished, James and Alice gathered with Emma and Chloe in the cozy family room. The fire softly crackled in the fireplace, casting a warm glow that enveloped the space in a soothing ambience. The girls, perceiving the gravity in their parents' faces, remained silent, their identical bright blue eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. James was the first to break the silence, speaking softly but with sincerity, meticulously selecting his words to express the intricate reality. "Girls, your mom and I have something significant to discuss with you. We wish for you to grasp the reasons behind our family's long separation and the lengthy journey it took to reunite." James and Alice shared the narrative of their past missteps and the anxieties that led to their division. They candidly discussed Alice's decision to depart with Chloe, the miscommunications, and the feelings of remorse that lingered. The twins sat in silence, exchanging glances that spoke volumes, taking in every word with careful consideration. Once James and Alice concluded their conversation, a moment of quiet enveloped the room, giving the twins time to reflect on what had been shared. Emma broke the stillness first, her voice soft but resolute. "But you're together now. You resolved it. That means everything's all right, doesn't it?" Alice smiled softly, nodding with a sense of relief and appreciation. "Indeed, my dear. We are united now and all will be well." Chloe, who had been more reserved, unexpectedly extended her hand to grasp her mother's, gazing sincerely at both her parents. "We forgive you," she said with genuine warmth, her voice steady and resolute. "We understand, and we're truly glad you're both here with us now." Tears shimmered gently in Alice's eyes, and James experienced a subtle wave of relief enveloping him. He reached out, tenderly pulling both girls into a warm embrace, his heart filled with appreciation for their pure, unwavering forgiveness. Later that evening, after settling Emma and Chloe into bed, James and Alice lingered together in silence outside the twins' room, united by a profound sense of relief and thankfulness. They had finally crossed one of the most challenging bridges. The truth had been revealed, forgiveness offered, and their path ahead felt clearer and stronger than ever. As they settled into bed later that evening, James gently wrapped his arms around Alice, feeling her relax against him, her breathing calm and steady. He pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, whispering gently, "We made it through. We are unbreakable now, and nothing will ever come between us again." Alice rested gently against his chest, experiencing a profound tranquility in her heart for the first time in years. "Together, always," she murmured softly, aware that it was more than just a promise. It was the pure, sincere truth they both wholeheartedly embraced. As time passed, the once fractured family thrived, united by honesty, trust, and a steadfast dedication to one another. Emma and Chloe became inseparable, reflecting not only their striking physical resemblance, but also an emotional connection that felt almost instinctual. James and Alice centered their lives around their daughters, valuing the beauty of simple family traditions and the happiness found in everyday experiences. They marked birthdays, milestones, and subtle victories with heartfelt joy, savoring each treasured moment that life presented. Their home, previously marred by hidden truths and sorrow, transformed into a haven brimming with laughter, warmth, and unwavering love. On a radiant Saturday afternoon, beneath the soft glow of the early summer sun, James and Alice stood together in a cozy, private ceremony in their backyard, encircled by their dearest friends and family. Emma and Chloe donned matching soft blue dresses, their smiles beaming as they stood proudly next to their parents, clutching delicate bouquets of wildflowers. James stole a glance at Alice, his heart swelling with gratitude for the second chance they had been granted. Her eyes sparkled with a profound joy he had only envisioned during their years of separation. In a moment of shared intimacy, they spoke their vows softly, each word resonating with genuine emotion, reflecting on the struggles they had faced and the resilience they had cultivated side by side. Following the ceremony, they embraced a modest celebration, filled with home-cooked meals, joyful laughter, and the reassuring bond of true companionship. James observed in silence as Emma and Chloe danced playfully in the grass, their laughter floating gently in the breeze. He experienced a profound and soothing tranquility, acutely conscious of the transformation he had undergone since the times when success and ambition loomed large. Now, he recognized that genuine contentment stemmed not from riches or accomplishments, but from love, connection, and family. That evening, after their guests had departed and the girls were snugly settled in bed, James and Alice found solace together on the porch, enveloped in a warm blanket as the stars twinkled overhead. The tranquil atmosphere enveloped them, marked only by the subtle rustling of leaves and the distant, soft hoot of an owl. James embraced Alice, relishing the warmth of her presence, profoundly thankful for their reunion. "I never thought we'd return to this place," Alice murmured softly, resting her head against his shoulder, her tone tender and reflective. "I lingered in the shadows of doubt, convinced that our love had slipped away for good." James nodded with a measured grace, placing a tender kiss upon her hair. "I felt the same," he confessed softly. "I thought I had lost you for good. Yet, fate granted us another opportunity, and I promised to cherish it." Alice raised her head a bit, gazing intently into his eyes. "Do you think we needed to lose each other to truly understand how to love each other better?" she asked, her voice laced with contemplation. James smiled gently, his thumb brushing softly across her cheek. "Maybe," he replied, his tone tender. "Perhaps the struggles were necessary for us to cultivate patience and compassion, to understand what is truly important. Yet, in this moment I wouldn't exchange our family, our love, for anything else." Alice beamed tenderly, leaning in softly to kiss him, her lips comforting and gentle. They remained together in silence for an extended period, embracing one another, letting the tranquility and joy of the moment permeate their souls. In the years that ensued, their family became even more united. Emma and Chloe flourished into self-assured, compassionate young women, molded by the genuine love and strength of their parents. James led his business with a newfound compassion, placing his family at the forefront of his priorities. He showed his daughters the essence of balance, kindness, and commitment. Meanwhile, Alice fully embraced her strength, chasing her passions and creating a life that nourished both her family and her own spirit. Years later, as James and Alice watched their daughters get ready for college, they stood proudly together, hand in hand, reminiscing about the remarkable journey they had experienced together. They understood their narrative wasn't flawless. It had been tangled, intricate, and laden with errors. Yet, they recognized that it was profoundly, unmistakably authentic. It was a tale of redemption, forgiveness, and the subtle resilience of opting for love repeatedly, against all challenges. That night, as James tenderly enveloped Alice in his arms, their hearts brimmed with pride and gratitude. He whispered softly, "We made it." Amidst all the pain and uncertainty, they had discovered their way home. Alice smiled warmly, resting peacefully in his embrace, fully aware of the truth in his words. United, they turned heartbreak into healing, fear into bravery, and loss into enduring love. To me, the conclusion of this tale strikes a profound chord as it highlights how true love and sincere forgiveness can mend even the most profound scars. The strength of James and Alice's reunion is rooted in its authenticity. They do not merely overlook past errors but intentionally decide to learn from them and evolve together. Their journey highlights the powerful impact of honesty and vulnerability, illustrating that when second chances are approached with care, they can forge an even deeper connection than previously existed. In the end, what resonates with me is not the flawless nature of their relationship, but its genuine essence, demonstrating that love is not defined by a lack of struggles, but by the unwavering commitment to rebuild, regardless of the challenges faced.